And hello, everyone. Welcome to the Real Estate Show on KCMX News Media 880. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you today. And thanks for joining us here on KCMX. Is the fall moving along here? And we've got a great show today. Joe, how are you doing?
Good. Doing well. I'm excited to continue to talk about some subjects that we've talked about before, especially the senior living issues that you alluded to in the opening of the show. And that's going to be great information.
Well, right next to me, Don McCoy is an old friend of ours, has been on our show many times in the past. First of all, how are you doing?
Really good. Nice to be here.
Yeah?
It's been a long time. I thought you forgot about me.
Well, I never forget about you. I see you, and every time I do, I says we're going to come back and do a show again. Anyway, so it's good to have you. How are you? I mean, real estate, you've been busy. I know you've got a lot going on.
A lot going on. It's wonderful. It's great to see tons of listings coming in, and sellers are finally getting on board right when the market's kind of leveling off. Have you noticed?
Well, we're seeing more listings come on, and I think that's part of the thing. And next to Dawn is Cindy Priestley from John L. Scott as well. And Cindy, you and I and Joe have one thing in common a little bit, is that we all became brokers about 10 years ago, haven't we?
Yes. Thanks, Pete. Pretty much.
But you retired. You were a nurse, though. I didn't realize that.
Right. I was an RN, a registered nurse for 30-plus years, and my license is now retired. And I went into real estate.
Well, all four of us here as a second career, right? I mean, because Dawn was in radio for a long time back in the day, and here we all are doing something else, right? That it's really a lot of fun because we're still doing it as we've aged, right?
And my mother was an RN for 35 years, so
well,
I know
good for her.
I know you just instructively take good care of your clients.
Yes, I very much do.
Well, before we talk about kind of senior issues, which are so many and so varied out there, let's talk about the market for folks. October. I mean, we're seeing more listings coming on, as we've been told, as well as a lot of price reductions. So what does all that mean? Tell me.
I'm seeing twice the price reductions for listings almost every day.
Right.
You know, the other day I saw 50 some odd price reductions and only 25 listings at the end of the day.
That was listed on the MLS on earlier this week, yes.
And in our little email blasts as well, there's more price reductions than new listings that are showing up as people are trying to get those out there in front of buyers.
But what does it mean? What's going on there?
They don't want to get stuck for winter. Their sellers are.
I think that's pretty typical this time of the year, for one thing. But I do feel that a lot of things that are coming down in price were overpriced. You know, they were. The market seemed to have no top, and I think at this point in time, sellers are realizing, I better step back a little bit.
So you're saying that at this point, if you're out there and if you've been on the market for a while, you haven't sold it, your price is obviously, we say, has been probably too high. As you come down now, of course, you're chasing the market. Is the demand still there? What have you seen in terms of buyers out there looking? Has that slowed in your guys' business?
I've
Tell me
been
if there.
very, very consistent the whole year. I still have buyers looking, and I still have people out there. But I think that buyers are also seeing the price reductions, and not 5,000. Some of them are pretty significant price. And so I think there's going to be some pushback there from the buyers.
Yeah, and I think, what is it, like 82% of sellers have not given concessions, right? Or was it the other way around? I can't remember that statistic.
It seems like they wouldn't have given those.
Have not, but still, it's like 22% of sellers are giving concessions, and I think we're going to see maybe more of that. I think buyers and sellers both have to adjust right now, don't they, to the market? I mean, sellers can't just sit there and say, "Here's my price, I'm going to get it."
I think very much they are.
Yeah, it's kind of a confusing time, actually. I mean, sellers think they're still in charge of the price, and buyers sense that they can get a little bit lower price or a lot lower price. I just see a lot of confusion going on. Higher priced properties have gotten really quiet, in my experience, in the listings I have. There's just fewer showings, and what a great time to make offers in higher priced properties.
And when you talk higher priced properties, you're talking like 500,000 and above, or 750.
For mine, it's 700,000 and up.
And we've been talking about the luxury market and the number of listings that are out there. A sprinkle have sold, not certainly the way I think that market is used to here. They got a 2-year supply almost.
Right.
So that's negotiating power for the buyer, right? I would certainly think that that's a great opportunity, but there's just not many people out there looking for those places. I guess that's the problem.
I know a few buyers that have not been under pressure to buy, that are in a situation that has been acceptable or manageable for them, and they wouldn't bite on those higher prices because it was too much to put into a home that they weren't going to be happy with. I think that's where it kind of plateaued a few months back, maybe even as the summer months came on. A lot of buyers just got worn out by what was the inventory and the price on the market and said, you know what, I might be better off to come back and look in 6 months. And to their credit, that's probably a pretty good move they made.
Yeah.
But I do think that buyers need to be aware, and because of the interest rates going up, and we already saw it. We saw it just this past week, another hike, and I think that people need to be aware that that's be a great time for buyers to get out there and
plunge and
could save yourself some money.
Yeah,
Seriously,
absolutely.
And
by
your
2 months'
buyers,
time.
the buyers that you guys are talking about, tell me where they're coming from, where you're seeing them. Is it local people, Cindy? Is it out of state people? What are you seeing out there?
Well, I also do a fair amount of rural.
Okay.
So that has caused, the smoke this past summer has caused a lot of issues there. People who are coming into the valley looking were quite dismayed. Of course, we didn't have good.
Dismayed is a good word.
Yeah. So you tried telling them that there actually was a view there, and but anyways, it's still, I mean, on a bright side, I think that this is something that should be. I mean, we need a leveling out. We need to have a healthy appreciation. And that's my personal opinion, and I think most people will agree with that.
Well, it's a great investment, whether you're buying for your own property or you're investing yourself. You're going to invest in the stock market, you're going to invest in real estate. We talk about that all the time, and it's still a good investment. We just don't want it to go too far, too fast. Right. And it certainly has slowed down. I think we're going to see that reflected in the reports that come out from 2018.
Well, let's talk about the reality of people that do not want to live in the smoke anymore in this valley. I'm going to be curious to watch very closely what happens this next spring, of how many people put their properties on the market to get them sold so they can get out of here.
So you think it was
pretty
significant kind of effect?
I've heard a lot of people talking about it, and whether they do it or not is one thing, but some of them will because of their health. It's their health issues.
It will force them. Part of the catch is, though, when they cash out in this market and go, boy, you got to make a good choice, because it's not like coming from California here with a ton of equity, and after you buy your home as well, it's going to be a reverse effect the other way.
That's a very good point. We just had a chart came out a few weeks ago about where the equity values were across the country, and it was interesting. Midwest, they've gone up because there's a lot of influx of people moving into Colorado and Idaho and all those places like that over there. But the further east you go, the equity values taper off into the 5% as far as values that have increased in a year. And here, we're about 8%.
It's about 8%, 5 to 8%. It depends, and it depends by community, by area too. Ashland didn't raise much at all, this last year. East Medford did. Look at it's where new construction is going and all those kinds of things that play into it. Yet in Josephine County, it seems like they're really lagging quite a bit right now in new sales. I mean, they're not keeping up. But even though during the smoke, it's really interesting, Cindy, that during the smoke, as we watch it every week, it didn't seem like it affected sales or anything.
There was a lot of momentum.
There was still a lot of activity going on. And even though we heard stories of people canceling and leaving and all these things, the statistics didn't reflect that. Right. It could have been an amazing summer, even more so, had it been not for the smoke. It's probably what it comes down to.
But don't forget, those purchases were 60 days prior.
Yeah.
So we're looking at
before the fire started.
Right,
they saw us at our best.
So now we're looking at, from there, we're looking at that 60 days forward. But,
the last thing I'd like to bring up as far as reality is what has happened to our rural properties and the whole idea of marijuana grows. We know talk about trends. There's a huge shift in the market right now with people going to industrial hemp.
Right.
Have you noticed that?
I see it everywhere.
All the skeletons around of the.
I am so hopeful that industrial hemp becomes a really good agriculture product, because it certainly can create a lot of wealth for people who grow it and use it, because look what it can be used for, right?
And talk about the market dynamics forcing your hand. Well, the crop that they intended to grow, the cannabis for recreational and medicinal sales, the market's bottomed out on that.
Right.
It's overgrown, and if they're going to get any value out of that land, they're going to have to make that transition, because it's all set up for cannabis, but just this different kind is going to result in the yields that are going to allow them to stay in these high-priced properties they overpaid for.
That's right.
Cindy, you've seen that then. Okay, so I mean, we've seen it in the properties. The values have dropped.
Oh gosh, as far as anything to do with cannabis but industrial hemp, there's still, I think it's going to be, this is my personal opinion, I believe that it's going to be much bigger, on a much bigger scale. All the mom and pop operations, it just,
you can
that's not
grow
going to
it
happen.
and not offend your neighbor,
Right.
You can grow it without having to have security fences and everything else around your properties. By the way, Josephine County Commissioners just this week passed their ordinance, which was
amended their ordinances.
They were forced to amend their ordinance regarding cannabis grows on rural residential land, right?
Yeah.
And I know they have a hearing coming up on November the 7th. It's still a ways off, but that's when people can then go and comment on it. But it's on their website, and you can go take a look at that.
And that's
I don't know if that's going to clarify Josephine County's issues or not, but at least it's a good stab at it.
Williams area was where medical marijuana really has its roots, no pun intended. And that was the area that brought the neighbors' strongest response from the unintended consequences of all that production out there. So the new ordinance has items in there about the noise and time periods when the noisy machines can operate.
Yeah.
It's really pretty well thought out, and there was incredible input from that community, the county citizens, to help shape this ordinance
And the best part of
make
that
those
ordinance,
changes and protect themselves.
Yeah, the best part of that ordinance was the person who is going to grow the crop has to have an interest in the property. They got to own some of that property. You just can't go lease it. I thought that was really interesting, and maybe Jackson County ought to take a look at that, because that might make some sense around here too. We've had the sheriff in here. We talked about this. They're enforcing more of the illegal grows. I hope they do, because it will certainly help, don't you think, Cindy? The rural market, the rural people who live in there.
Well, I think that there obviously had to be streamlined, and better rules, so to speak, had to be put on there so that everybody can benefit.
Yeah, the OLCC, by the way, if you haven't seen it, drive by the John L. Scott office in Medford Center. They got their own parking lot now. They're moving where the Ashley Furniture building was. They're bringing in all these extra, detectives or inspectors for this. That's going to be one hubby place there with the OLCC, supposedly, when they open their new office. Isn't that going to be? I don't know. We'll see what happens. And we got a break coming up here. We're with Cindy Priestley and Don McCoy here on the Real Estate Show today, talking about the market. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll explore some senior living and senior living solutions. It's a big issue. It's a big topic, and we're just going to scratch the surface. So stay tuned. We're coming right back. The Real Estate Show continues after this. And welcome back to the Real Estate Show here on KCMX News Media 880. Pete and Joe, the real estate guys, with you. Thanks for joining us today. Cindy Priestley and Don McCoy, John L. Scott agents, good ones at that, I might add, are with us here today on the show. By the way, you can check out any of our past shows. Don't forget at realestateshowOregon.com. There's some terrific shows there. I got to say, I have really enjoyed some of our guests because they bring such insights. We talk about this stuff all the time, and when you're here, it's the same thing. We learn so much.
Even last week, Greg White from Rydell and O'Hara Insurance was skeptical of how interesting a show about insurance would be. But boy, was that great information.
He said to me, "No one's ever asked me that they wanted. They were looking forward to talking about insurance." That was pretty good. Anyway, today, Cindy Priestley has been the agent for 10 years. Don, of course, former radio host as well, author of a book as well. We're going to tell you about in a little bit as well. I love that Don did that, because we all talk about we're going to do a book or we're going to do something, and you actually did
people
it.
Need to get my book. It is so well written. I mean,
here, let me get this picture.
Chapter
here.
4.
Here you go, right there.
Chapter 4 is picking a good real estate agent. I don't care what realtor you have out there, but if you'll get your hands on this book, and it's free on my website, and I'll even mail you one.
It's free.
But on Chapter 4, it talks about how to choose a good real estate agent, and if you'll get that, you can keep tabs on your realtor and make sure he's doing a good job.
That's
Yeah,
not,
is that
that's
strategy or
that's
what?
a good
Yeah,
strategy,
yeah,
I think, to do. So
Keep 'em on their
as well.
toes.
Anyway, today we're talking about the market, what it's doing, and we're going to see. The new statistics will be out, I think, next week from the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. We'll go over them probably next week with you, and we'll see what September ended up looking like as we go into the fall. We'll see. It's going to be, it's changing. Let's just say that. And everybody, buyers and sellers, all need to be aware of it.
How far do we go till we see maybe a median price drop? That's probably months away, but we might.
It's
I don't
coming.
know. I think it's coming.
Yeah, it's
coming.
Probably on the horizon.
I think it's coming.
Well, I'll tell you.
absolutely.
I want to share something with you. In my 18 years in real estate, some of the most significant and interesting experiences I've had is selling and property for seniors, and I'm talking about real seniors, not 50-year-olds so much, which is, of course, what the NAR says. 50 and older is considered a senior, but people in their 80s and 90s. Interesting experiences.
Well, we all talk about that. I tell people, so many of my clients are a lot of fellas who are 25 years older than me, and I'm not spring chicken, but I'm amazed. You're right, and where they live and how they have lived their lives and their stories are fascinating to me too. I love that's the best part of it, don't you think?
Yeah. The personal connection. Yeah.
So, but as we age and we get to this, at some stage in your life, you have to make decisions on what you're going to do, because as much as we want to remain unchanged as we get older,
That's me.
change is there. And I look at this stuff. I look at this stuff as the next great adventure of your life, because if you live in a place that you've got 2 stories and all sorts of things, it makes you just can't do it. That's the problem, right? And there's a lot of us. There's a lot of people that are in this situation.
No kidding. Well, look at the baby boomers. We just talked about that.
Yeah.
20% of the American population are between the ages of, they're born between 1945 and 1964, which are considered
the boomers.
baby boomers. So, and in the last 20 years, the market for quote unquote 55 plus seniors have doubled.
Sure.
Okay, for selling and buying.
For selling their homes, sure. Because for selling their home, they won't.
But don't forget, a lot of seniors now are, they're aging in place, and they might be selling their family home that's too large, has upstairs, downstairs, and not conducive to them. Their health.
There.
So
for health-wise, you may be healthy right now, right? As you make these decisions, but that down the line here, it's still going to change.
So it's not just selling; it's also buying.
Right.
So when I have a senior, which I'm pretty close there, I guess I'm considered part 50 plus, obviously. But I look at a lot of different things when I take people into a home. Is it going to be something that if they need a walker or a wheelchair, that the floor plan looks conducive to that? Or maybe the person already has those things, and I'm dealing with the family members to try and help them. They're going to have a 24-hour caregiver or somebody that's going to help them. So their bathroom may need to be retrofitted for this type of thing.
So you see a lot of seniors say downsizing and buying another home, a smaller
absolutely.
place, still want that home ownership,
right?
Even as they've aged there.
Yeah, before Pete, we were talking about how expensive it is for assisted living. And a lot of people, there's no reason that they have to necessarily go to that type of living situation right away. So why not make them still be very independent?
Okay. Are most of the seniors, and again, I don't mean generalities here because we're talking about, but are most of the seniors that you do this with, are they paying cash for their new homes, or are they having to obtain loans? Because I worry about, am I going to get a loan if I'm 85 years old and I don't know? So tell me what your experience there has been.
I think a lot of people who are moving from other areas here, I've had a lot of clients moving believe it or not, not necessarily from California, but
Sure,
from the
everywhere,
Northwest.
yes, absolutely.
You know, and they're moving here. They've sold a big family home, a ranch, or something like that, and so those people will pay cash.
So okay, so some do pay cash
Right.
for those homes.
But still, I've seen people with loans because they don't want to tie up their cash.
Yeah.
Hey, you know.
and
Wanna
and,
travel
and,
and do some
and
things
I've
like
never
that.
I've never asked Giles this or anybody, but a person can get a loan if you're in your 80s and
Sure.
you can.
I mean, that's a whole nother subject, but
Yeah.
but reverse mortgages are
Reverse-
huge,
yeah,
and you can
reverse
do
mortgage you
reverse
could do.
mortgage
Sure.
purchases,
Yeah.
which I've been involved with,
interesting.
which are wonderful. They're great.
Well, it's one of the first questions when I talk with clients and stuff. I mean, I come right out and ask them, if they owe anything on the property. And boy, when they say no, it's all paid off. Man, it just changes the whole scenario of what's possible, right?
Yeah.
Because if you owe, then you're limited, and that's I think is what we see, right?
That's right. You have less equity to work with. You know what's interesting to me is that when you're putting together a transaction for a senior, and you get that relationship started, all of the players that come into place, and the way I like to look at it is like we're building a team, because you have to rely on so many other people and their expertise to come in, and that's where people can get so confused and frustrated. And that's why they need a real estate agent that understands these issues, because they know who the players are. They can pull them all in, line them all up, and everybody does their job, and you end up with a nice, smooth transaction almost 50% of the time.
How difficult is it to find housing for people looking downsizing right now, do you think, Cindy, Dawn? I think it's pretty difficult. There's not a lot out there, unless you want to spend a whole lot of money again, I suppose.
Well, there 55 plus communities in Jackson County are pretty, and Josephine County are pretty limited.
There are.
There's none in Ashland.
No.
And it's just, and most of them are manufactured homes, and a lot of times that's a deal breaker for a lot of people. So there's some new on the horizons, but there again, a lot of people want to limit what they pay. So, but I think that there's definitely nothing wrong with trying to find a home, and there again, before they make an offer, a lot of the times I'll bring somebody in as a contractor, see, okay, can we widen the doorway? Can we put grab bars on? Is this shower, can you step into the shower versus having to a wheel right into the shower without having a tub there? Well, lots of different things that can be done to make a regular single-story home conducive to safe senior living.
And if you get to into that situation as you get older again, people come in, if you need care in your home, right? Home care,
right?
Will come in and take care of that for you there. So again, you can stay longer in your home before having to go to the next step, I suppose, if you're looking at that, because you want to stay there as long as you can. And if you take those precautions now, you will be able to do that, especially with home health assistance. There's a lot of that out there.
And I think it changes when you're in your mid-30s. You're thinking of that neighborhood, that school district, that view that I just got to have. And I think when you're 65 or beyond, it probably changes to, well, where can I live comfortably?
Safe.
Yeah, safe. Yeah. That's
because that's a big worry for seniors.
The criteria really changes, but to live comfortably.
Right.
Okay. What about
home that can serve you for a long time?
We got a break coming up here, but what do you think about the push now for additional dwelling units? We're seeing this everywhere.
Just going to bring that up.
Why in the world can't people allow people to build small units onto these places for exactly this? For your mother-in-law, it could be a relative or not.
Yeah.
I can tell you that was exactly what I was going to bring up. Is that a lot of times I'm getting people, that are in their 50s that are looking at, can I get an additional dwelling unit on here? Because I want to bring my mom, and she's okay right now, but I anticipate in the future that she's going to need some assistance. It would make it so much easier.
So much easier.
So that's absolutely a huge thing that I feel would be better.
Have you seen many? Joe attends all these planning commission meetings, so have you seen any applications come through? Or
they're
any
coming.
Of this
they're
stuff?
coming. They're talking about the housing plans are full of ideas and opportunities in that way. My sister and brother-in-law built my mother one on their property in Corvallis. Now there's a single mom with 2 kids that lives there as a renter after that had passed its time for my mom to use it. Now it's available inventory that's being put to really good use, and there's a lot of advantage. We need we need housing.
We're going to see how good the builders of Jackson County are and how creative they can be with some of these types of units that
the builders are incredibly creative. The developers are
and architects, how they can do this onto places to make them look really cool or whatever. I mean,
well, I've got to say, for years there's been great house plans out there for additional dwelling units attached to the house. The thing that's so frustrating is that they don't let you have a stove. I mean, you can have everything else, but you're not supposed to have a stove, I mean, let's get this stuff fixed so that families can live together, and the cost it takes to age in place or to have to move somewhere wipes people out.
There is no other way it's going to be solved.
And actually, in the long run, it's going to help the homeless problem. Okay,
there's a societal cost.
So
you're right.
Let's just change some of this stuff so we don't have more people in the street.
It's the only way you're going to solve this. It's not going to be. I read these things. Government subsidized housing. We know how expensive that is. That's not going to solve anything. It's individuals allowed to do things with their property. And additional dwelling units certainly it seems like the most smartest thing that we can do is ease the restrictions on these. I hope it happens.
I bet on that before the government.
Yeah. I absolutely would too. Got a break on. We're with Cindy Priestley and Don McCoy here on the Real Estate Show today and a John L. Scott Market Watch. We got one more segment to go here. Don't forget you can check out any of our past shows at realestateshowOregon.com. Hope you check them out. We're coming right back. The Real Estate Show continues after this. And welcome back to the Real Estate Show on KCMX News Media 880. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you today, along with Cindy Priestley and Don McCoy, both John L. Scott real estate brokers, and here on the show. Don's been here.
And I'm the man with a free book.
Don's been here many times and hawking his book. I feel like we're on like the cable news, here.
Home shopping.
My book. But you can get it. And your website address is?
DonMcCoyRealEstate.com.
And it's free. Yeah. So actually do that. It's a great effort that you put forth. We've been talking about the market. We're talking about seniors and kind of some of the solutions out there. And I heard you say, Cindy, universal design. And I've not heard that with the Johnsons and some of the other stuff. So what does that mean, actually, when you talk about this?
Well, I mean, it's where a house is built with the intention of somebody aging in place, so that it's designed, it looks aesthetically just like any other house, but there are changes potentially that can be made to the house very easily if somebody is in a wheelchair or walker. I think I said in the previous segment, the rooms are a little bit bigger. The doorways are already built that way, that are a little bit larger to allow for walkers and wheelchairs. But in the kitchen, what can happen is that counters can be adjusted with, they're all normal, like you would buy a normal house, but they can be adjusted. Things can be dropped down if somebody's in a wheelchair when the time comes. A lot of pull-outs, things that could be more accessible for somebody that has those needs.
And you have to build, that's kind of a building, and now Twin Creeks is where, isn't that where, Joe, that's where these types of homes are being built, right?
Yes.
Is that the only place though? It's just in the Twin Creeks area, right?
Right.
I don't see anything. I don't see anything anywhere
I have
else.
clients right now that's what they need, but they want to live in a different area.
They don't want to live in that particular area.
That's right. And it's hard to
And of
find.
course, there's a price that comes with all
Okay.
of this.
Is all in the now all the new construction that's going on like in East Medford, are these new homes, and they're not big homes, a lot of them are single levels, are they built to a standard like you're talking about there with wider doors and higher plug-ins, things like that, or are they not? They're probably not, are they?
I think that, in the price range, the subdivisions are built pretty much standard.
Okay, so they probably don't have any of that.
But I think that what you want to do is, I had some people who came in and they were buying in a brand new subdivision. So when they were picking out their tile and all of that, I sat with them and said, look, I really need you to think about putting grab bars,
Long-term
put
as we go,
another
sure.
seat in the shower, and do some changes. And there was such pushback because of the way it looked. They
Yeah.
just didn't want to do it, especially her. But what we did is now things are looking much more. They are blended in with making it much more aesthetically
Yeah.
pleasing.
Yeah.
So
Well, certainly seniors are limited in options. If we want to downsize from a big place that we have or wherever, we have the option of buying another house, as you talked about. Price, again, if you don't owe on your house, it's easy to do it with cash, and you've got some equity. Reverse mortgages you talk about also people use. But beyond that, then it's really limited. You've got manufactured home parks, and they're full. You can't even get in them. You've got places like Brookdale's and
assisted living.
Assisted living places, and they're expensive in their own right. So you have to have, you're going to use many times you use all of your retirement monies to live there. Beyond that, other than additional dwelling units maybe to be built, boy, seniors are very limited in where they can go. In that really, apartments, I guess it's apartments.
But I'm
But
going to lead the push for those additional dwelling units because I'm looking, probably about 20 years down the road. So I could be with my grandkids, help out around the house. I'd be a good roommate, kind of out in the back 40 out somewhere.
Where else are you going to go?
That's what I'm saying.
Where else are you going to go?
Families can help themselves oftentimes more than anything or anyone else.
Well, that's the only way. It's not. Government is not the solution. It's really it's government allowing the entrepreneurship of this to happen and make it easy instead of charging and that kind of thing, and nobody can afford to do it.
And you can't just go out and just throw something up in your backyard. It does need to be to code. It does need to be safe for your neighbors and for the standards and all of those things. But it can be done. I think it's just a matter of finding the ways we can do it.
Don't you think that would open up a huge lending for lenders again, and the business that it would generate as a result of that? It would increase values of properties that have them, etc.
Yeah.
So, it's just a lot of pluses to that.
Because
very few minuses, I think. Traffic I can see, you're going to have more. You're going to have maybe more cars. I don't know, but...
To your point, though, to your property value, now that property in Corvallis my sister and brother-in-law own now provides rental income. And they turn around and put that to help their kids buy their property. So it helped our family, and now it's continuing to help the family in that respect.
Well, we'll keep. This is something that we keep an eye on because we get lots. We got clients who we deal with this every day, and there is no easy solutions. But you really have to have a good agent who knows how to deal with seniors and what their issues and options are. Because if you don't, I can just see lots of problems and lots of issues.
Right.
And you know from your experience, Pete, that they're very unsure about the changes, the process, and what's to come.
And the thing of it is also, as a SRES or a senior real estate specialist, you look at things differently. You can't rush.
No.
There's hearing problems, vision problems. A lot of the times, some people, they don't have internet. So I go to their houses and not everybody has the patience for that. Not every real estate broker
so right.
has the patience for that. Yeah. So there, and it has to be done. I feel totally in a non, rush way.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'm dealing with family members as well. And it's not just the senior themselves.
And seniors aren't going to just say, I'm going to do this on a spur of the moment thing. We're going to talk about it for months, and then we're going to come back and visit it again, and until the time is right, and you know when that time is right to move, and but you got to have a plan. You got to have a plan in place. You just really do. You got to know what we're doing. Otherwise, it's a mess, as you well know. Well, we're almost out of time here, and I'll just kind of give you a chance to kind of sum us up. 8 August here. The end of October. Your thoughts in the next few months of what's going to happen around this crazy market?
Well, what do you think, John?
I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just excited as everybody else to find out what's going to happen. But I judging by what's happening in my little neck of the woods in real estate, there's a lot of activity. Yeah. People are wanting to put their properties on the market regardless of going into winter. And frankly, it is a good time. People think, I don't want anybody to come to my house in the wintertime. Well, that's a good time to be shopping, and it's a good time to be listing. It really is.
They always tell that
Many positives.
buyers in the winter are pretty serious because it's winter, and so
Right.
They're looking hard.
And don't ever think that things don't sell in November, December, January, February. I mean, there's a
Especially the
lot of
last few
stuff that
years.
just
Yeah.
sell.
Yeah, some of my
Right.
best,
Yeah.
my best interesting months with so much activity has
Yeah.
been in December.
Yeah, well, and I certainly don't think the demand is going to go down either.
I don't
mean,
think so.
It's
I
just
think we're still going to have an influx of people here. It's a
Yeah.
great community that's still growing,
Yeah.
and
it's just a market that's in flux right now,
Mm-hmm.
I think. And so, again, buyers and sellers, we need to adjust with it. We got to be smart consumers here, and we have to be realistic too of what the market is doing. All right, so that'll do it. Cindy Priestley, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much
we
for
hope
having
to
me. I
come
appreciate
back
it.
again sometime, and
Thanks.
we always call on Don
you.
McCoy as well. To visit with us when you can. Good luck
work,
on your
good
book as
show.
well. And thank you for coming. That'll do it for the Real Estate Show here. October the 6th is our date. We're back with you next week as well. So please join us right back here on KCMX. In the meantime, have a great week, everybody. God bless you all. We'll talk to you next Saturday right back here on the Real Estate Show.